all the gears have turned as we play Pass or Play on Full Gear, and then it is time for War Games. This is the Dangerous Jobbers podcast. Here we
People have been asking me, why, Eddie, why?
I'm better than you.
My eyes are red because I was in the back smoking a joint with their game.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your boy Stevie Jobber.
I'm your boy Dangerous Duke.
And welcome back to the Dangerous Jobbers podcast, putting wrestling over one podcast at a time.
Woo, woo, woo.
We got a big weekend to next weekend. Full Gear happens Saturday. We'll talk about that on Pass and Play. And then we make our predictions for War Games, who, as I figured out before we started recording, they only have 3 official matches announced. But given our wrestling historian, Duke, that great wrestling brain of his, is got the other 2 matches that'll probably end up on the card. And do we talk about the 5th member? It is the predictions, and we know what's coming up. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So we can beat around the bush on who the replacement to Jade is, because we'll have to talk about Jade and where that leaves us going into War Games.
Mm-hmm.
But first things first, Pass or Play on Full Gear. For anybody that hasn't seen this segment of the show, basically we play Pass or Play. It is generally that simple. I go down the card, whatever we feel like is passable, pass. Whatever we feel like we actually have something legitimate to talk about, we'll press play and we'll say what we need to say. It makes things a little faster and we get to the real meat of the product. Duke, you ready?
I am ready.
Let's do the 0 hour Anna Jay versus Deonna Purrazzo. Pass or play?
We gonna pass.
All right. Commander versus Buddy Matthews. Pass or play?
We're gonna pass.
Big Boom AJ versus QT Marshall. Pass or play?
You know what? Just because it's funny, we're gonna play.
You know what's crazy is I heard that this is probably one of the better pops of the night was Big Boom versus QT Marshall. And they're like the Costco Boys, I believe.
Yes, they are the Costco Boys.
So tell me your thoughts on QT and Big Boom.
Look, this match, all it was a money grab. It was just give the crowd something entertaining, and that's exactly what it was. Big Boom AJ having a wrestling match with QT Marshall. If there's anyone you want to have a match with when you're not a wrestler by trade in AEW, it's QT Marshall because he's a trainer. The dude runs the Nightmare Factory with Cody. And Big Boom AJ, he very, very large presence on social media with his son. What's his son's? Big Justice, and
Justice.
And then I think the Rizzler's his nephew.
Yes, the Rizzler. Yes,
that's a terrible Riz face, but still, look, it was hilarious for what it was, man. And then his son coming in with the spear. You know, for him being a kid, that was him living out his dream. So you can't be mad at it. He got the spear in. AJ's a pretty big guy, so I mean, he fit the bill very well. And you know, for the match, the kind of match that it was, the 10, 11 minutes, whatever it was, I enjoyed it. I can't even complain. So I liked it.
Yeah, it was fun to see that. It reminded me of who used to come out with Nakamura that was in the commercials a little bit beforehand. He used to play the guitar. Like right at the top of Nakamura's entrance. And the singlet, the super muscular.
Rick Boogs.
Rick Boogs. It reminds me of a Rick Boogs moment. Like he's just, I don't know. Sometimes the people just gravitate to a certain kind of energy.
Sometimes we just need fun. It doesn't need to make sense. Just let it be fun.
Man. Yeah, man. And who better than QT Marshall? You know what I mean? With that being said, we get into the actual show. I'll try to. This is, I'm honestly, I'm taking this from Bleacher Report, so it's kind of out of order. but it does seem like I can jump around to the matches that we'll probably pass on first. Um, let's start with the Champagne Championship celebration. Uh, our AEW Women's Champion Mariah May and her best friend or former best friend Mina Shikawa pass or play.
We're gonna pass.
Yeah, it was Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher pass or play.
You know what? We're gonna play.
I enjoyed this. I did see a lot of the highlights. Ospreay really put his guy over. I left this pay-per-view going, huh. Very good for the Don Callis family.
Mm-hmm.
The Don Callis family, I thought, was going to go the way of Team Taz for a very long time, where they didn't have legitimate guys for very long. Not that the guys they have aren't legitimate, but just that the stories were always shaky. Regardless of who you had, they were usually jobbing, and it just never worked out for them usually.
Mm-hmm.
And the start of that shift was Takeshita getting that momentum from Omega back then, and then somehow carrying all of that relevancy into eventually being able to turn on Osprey because they got Osprey. Look at how that worked out. And now we get to Osprey versus Fletcher, and Fletcher winning not clean necessarily, if you can call it that, but convincingly. And it really puts Fletcher in an interesting position going forward, along with the champion that we'll talk about later in Takeshita. So how do you feel about Fletcher getting this victory? How do you feel about the match?
I liked it. It was a very good match and one of the longer matches of the night. It was very, very well orchestrated. And then again, like you said, like you touched on earlier, kudos to Osprey for putting his guy over. I think it's going to do a lot good because it doesn't really hurt Osprey in any way to take an L to Fletcher. If anything, it kind of shows that, hey, he's still kind of human. He's not the monster. But great match, good W, and I want to see what goes forward from this win.
Yeah, Fletcher still has a lot of young, hungry, like all the young, hungry, swaggy guys are in AEW currently.
Mm-hmm.
They do have kind of a cool factor. So heel Fletcher honestly seems much cooler than face Fletcher. And I like the energy. All the young guys are really turning it on right now. So this
Yeah.
was really good step for him. Roderick Strong versus MJF, pass or play.
Dude, you know what? I want to play, but I'm gonna pass.
Yeah. I'll jump out the window another day. Switchblade Jay White versus Hangman Adam Page, pass or play.
I feel like we're mean to Adam Page a lot, so
Be honest.
let's just hit play on it.
This wasn't bad. Jay White wins. Pulls off a hidden blade again.
Mm-hmm.
Out of a reversal, like from I believe it was an ankle lock. After reversing Hangman's lariat. These are great wrestlers doing what great wrestlers do.
Yeah.
And Jay White just being mind over Braun at the end of the day. I'm just glad they're finally pushing Jay White. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I only hit play because of two things. One, I'm glad they're pushing Jay White. They're showing that Jay White can actually be somebody if utilized the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Not using the how most foreigners, they kind of like lose a little bit of steam here in the States. He's showing that that's not going to be him as of now. He's still got a steady traction going to him. And I also wanted to hit play because I feel like they got to figure something out with Adam Page, man. If you're not going to be the top guy like you want to be, try to figure something out. Like either, I don't know if it's your character that's got to get changed, if it's your mic work that got to get fixed. Something's not clicking with Adam Page, and it hasn't been for a long time. So he has talent in the ring. He just has to figure it out. Everything else, otherwise, he's gonna go the way of Cesaro in WWE. So I hope he figures something out, and I'm tired of shitting on the dude, but he's got to figure something out.
I think you make a great point, and I think we'll return to it a little later because I feel like it does lead to a bigger conversation later in the night. AEW, excuse me, International Championship, the IT Championship. Takeshita, who we were just talking about, versus Ricochet. Again, pass or play. Let's put it up there.
I'm gonna pass.
Weird situation for me that Takeshita won clean with no interruptions. But I feel like at a later date we'll talk about it. It wasn't. Yeah, it's passable. TNT Championship, Daniel Garcia versus the scapegoat Jack Perry. Pass or play.
We're gonna play.
I enjoyed this. I did wonder if it was too soon for Garcia to win, though. And I'll leave it at that. I'll let you take the rest of
it. This is where bias comes into play. I don't like Jack Perry, and not even just the character. Maybe it is just the character. I don't know, but I don't like Jack Perry. I don't know what it is. It's just like one of them situations where it's like, I don't see. I want to word this the right way without sounding like a dick. It's not that his character's a dick and that just makes me not like him. I could care less about the character. He could be any other type of character in the world. And I don't know what it is about Jack Perry. No offense, dude, but nothing, not the in-ring, not the mic work. Yeah, none of it works for me.
Man, I can't say I don't like Jack Perry. I don't have, what's weird, and this is why I look at AEW as more of a sport on these kind of occasions, because, and I'm sure we'll have the argument on a different day about which is the more professional of the sportier of the two, but I feel like this relates a lot more to UFC in a way where I kind of judge guys nowadays, especially AEW guys, as fighters in a way where you market yourself a certain way. And I don't think I have a general opinion about Jack Perry. I think all of them are great wrestlers, so that's no longer impressive to me, really. So I judge them based off of the marketing, and I think the marketing for Scapegoat has been very smart. It hasn't been very deep. You kind of went with one thing and then drove it into the ground after it was kind of already not a conversation anymore. And then ultimately was able to recover from it into a brilliant character after they put together the NWO again. And then and then you benefit from that by becoming champion, because once you're relevant, you get a title. That's how it works. But so the marketing has been very great, but I don't have a general opinion on how Jack Perry makes me feel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I actually like the way you just broke that down. I think that might be the underlying reason why. I just don't like the way he was marketed. And and it's weird. You like the way he was marketed. Maybe I just don't like the way he was marketed, because every point you made just made sense to me, but it also just
you don't feel it though. Like, it's not like I respect it. I respect the moves, but I don't feel like you got over because you genuinely connected over a story I could sink my teeth into.
Yeah,
I feel like you took controversy and marketed it very well.
Yeah, but then
I respect it, but like I'm not.
But then you also
like I feel like
he also over marketed it and kind of beat it to a pulp, and then
exactly. Like at this
and
point, you don't
then
need
beat
the
it
goat
again.
head
No,
anymore. You don't. Like that's like a all out thing now. If you're gonna do that, like because you're not really the scapegoat anymore. You're just like you're just the guy that weaseled your way back in. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know.
now
But I
you're
feel
just
like
Jack.
that's why. I feel like that's why I felt like Garcia should have won it at some point. I just don't know if this was too early. But I get your bias. But I feel like you genuinely connect to Garcia more just because of who Garcia genuinely comes across as and what he makes you feel. Like somehow that move doesn't take away from his seriousness. I do appreciate that about AEW as well because I look at it as more of a sport.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily care about anyone's gimmicks when it's time to get down to business. So
Yeah,
like that move is like funny. Like imagine Fandango being able to get over because he's a really great wrestler, but he still does the Fandango like original freaking thing.
yeah.
Like it's AEW is a place where that can get over, and we'll double back to that later too.
Oh,
But
that
I
guy's.
enjoy that. Like Garcia is so good that he can do that, and it doesn't take away from the seriousness of his character at all.
Mm-hmm.
Kudos to that. Um, let's move on to the tag team championships. The Fatal Four Way, Private Party, the Acclaim, the Outrunners, and the Kings of the Black Throne. Pass or play?
Uh, um, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's is what it is. It is what it is. You know, good for Private Party. Um, moving back down this list. Swerve Strickland versus Bobby Lashley. Pass or play?
Play.
Gotta play on this, right? Uh, Swerve, Bobby had a great match. I loved a lot of the spots in there. I thought Swerve sold very well for Bobby. I thought Bobby did a lot of good work for Swerve. I'll let you talk about the highlights, but I'm just to give the general consensus and then I'll toss it to you. I
Mm-hmm.
just felt like this was a great body of work, great debut for the leader of the Hurt Syndicate.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it does a lot for every character in the Hurt Syndicate. They all played a very significant part in the match
Mm-hmm.
to wield Bobby to victory. And I like it. I have no bad things to say. This was perfect.
Yeah. Talk about a perfect case scenario and a perfect way to bring somebody in who's supposed to be dominant, like Bobby is.
Mhm.
Both, like you said, both got their points across. Both got their moves off. I I like that Swerve was Bobby's first match.
Mhm.
I don't think you could have drew it up any better. It's like a perfectly coordinated NFL touchdown. Um, MVP Shelton in the mix, and then Bobby with the syndicate, everything else. I want to see this feud go on for as long as possible. Like I wouldn't be mad if they push this into next year because I
Yeah.
think they can do some really great stuff with Swerve trying to get his lick back on Bobby and trying to like go after the syndicate, or maybe the syndicate roughs him up and he's got to get back up somehow, or what have you, or maybe the syndicate just runs roughshod on him and kind of drives him into the ground, and I wouldn't
Mhm.
be upset with that either.
I bold prediction for next year. We'll do a video on all these later, but I'll give you one right now. If they choose to really go all in with the Hurt Syndicate versus Swerve, potentially, I think they could even grow this into like a big blood and guts type deal where like Swerve is always gathering more people, right? And he's already got some of his favorite guys, some of them stuck in ROH currently, but you could pull them together. The Hurt Syndicate are giving out business cards, which means they are adding to the team eventually. I could see them grabbing a chick. I could see them grabbing a tag team and letting Shelton play the middle and Bobby play the top. Um, I could see Swerve adding the judge and maybe some other people. I could see this being a really good blood feud if they choose to go all in with it. Because you look at what Hangman and Swerve was, and I think they had much more of potential to be cinema. This has a lot more meat than that did. So I feel like they could really take this to a place done right.
Yeah, just thinking about that just kind of makes me wonder like where they could go and how they could do this, because in a blood and guts type of deal, Swerve is down to do that anytime. Swerve kind of established himself to have more of a hardcore edge than we even thought possible.
Yeah.
And for Bobby to do a blood and guts match with Swerve, I'm pretty sure Bobby will sign on the dotted line for that in a heartbeat.
My goodness. You know what's funny to me is I don't think it would take long. I think within 2 years, the way AEW moves should things go fast, like I would assume they would. In 2 years, I could see the excitement about Shelton Benjamin even surpassing Bobby Lashley to a point where they could catapult Shelton. I only say this because you say that about like a blood and guts match between Bobby and Swerve. And I think to myself, it's going to be so awesome to see those kind of guys in a hardcore match. And then I think to myself, but how cool will it be to see Shelton in one of those matches?
Yeah.
I'm almost more excited about Shelton getting those opportunities. Shelton being able to sink his teeth into a real hardcore story. The way Shelton is debuted, tossing guys all around the place, dominating the competition. It's exciting. Yeah. It's so exciting. Yeah. So I could see just that hidden, like that feeling we get from not seeing Shelton achieve as much. In 2 years, in the shape that those two guys are in, I can see Shelton being bigger than him.
Yeah.
So there's a lot they could do. There's a lot they could do.
Entirely possible.
Speaking of somebody they could do it with, pass or play, Chris Statlander versus Mercedes Moné.
I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass. This was weird. We'll talk about it later, but no, pass. I think that leads us to AEW World Championship match. Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy. Pass or play?
Play.
You gotta play. This was a great just Orange Cassidy, and I should have known when he fought Zack Sabre Jr. Way back when he fought Zack Sabre Jr., I realized that, man, Orange Cassidy, he's no joke. He's no joke, because that was the first time he really had somebody that was all business, that produced nothing but great technical matches. A guy that's not here to play around. So to really get in the ring with him and go and be believable and hold a compelling match, from that moment I knew, oh, Orange Cassidy has got something.
Yeah.
And I think that is what makes me like Jon Moxley's character so much more, is that at the basis of his character, he really wants AEW to be better. But it's in a very Red Hood type of way. Where, like, I'm going to force you to be what you're supposed to be instead of what you are. You're not going to like it. I'm not going to like doing it, but it's what's necessary. And the way he sacrificed Trent and almost pretended to sacrifice Wheeler Yuta and forced Orange Cassidy up against this wall into this war, essentially calling people to action and calling him to the forefront. Even though I kind of knew Cassidy was going to lose, you knew what great work it was going to do for Cassidy to get to that place and meet Moxley at that level. And then I'll turn it over to you.
Exactly. See, now, like you just said, everybody probably figured Mox was going to win. There was no way it was going to get dropped this quick, this early, with the run he's been on and everything he's been doing. But look at how Cassidy stepped up. Look at the transformation, almost like a complete 180 of a person with still being Orange Cassidy. Like he's still Orange Cassidy. He's still the guy everybody loves. He's still the cool guy, but he's not the kind of guy anymore. He's actually got that, like, all right, I'm gonna be that guy who needs to kick some ass, but I'm still gonna be me. Not gonna be it's almost like he shed the hugger gimmick and just became like, all right, let's get down to business. Like I'm supposed to, like you want me to. And he did. Got down to business right away. They got into it. They mixed it up hot and heavy, and then they put on a great match. It didn't discredit Cassidy for taking the loss because he looked great. He did what he needed to do. And this run that Mox is on, I think it's only going to elevate Cassidy and other people to try to step up and do great things just like this.
Yeah. Yeah. What it's done for Daniel Garcia anyway, just this far has been tremendous. Like, he already had a lot of I think that's this is the root of Moxley's character. All these people that are against him are people we have a lot of love for that don't necessarily get all the breaks. And we're always questioning, like, why are they where they're at in the card? And he really kind of called to action all of these men. So it instantly added the momentum needed for the love we already had. And it's, like I said, it's done wonders for Daniel Garcia. It did wonders here for Orange Cassidy. I'm sure it'll do wonders for Darby Allin. I do feel like Darby Allin is the sting at the end of the rainbow. And he still has to get there.
That's going to be great when that happens.
Yeah, that's the one. Like, from the moment AEW episode 1, like since the debut episode, when I saw Darby Allin, that's the one.
That's going to be the AJ
I
moment.
want him to be world champion. I wanted it that night. I was like, watching him become champion is going to be amazing. And I've had to wait this long. He's been TNT champion, but look what the TNT champion has turned into. You know what I mean? It might as well be the United States Championship before Triple H got his hands on it.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and I'm not talking about when Matt Hardy had, I'm talking about the very obscure, nobody cares US Championship run.
Yeah.
So seeing him become world champion, like, you know, like he didn't even get the IT title. Like, he hasn't been a legitimate champion in a very long time. Yeah. So when he gets to the end of that, that's the one. That's the one. He's always been the one for me. Forget 100%. Hangman. They chose Hangman, but from day one, I was
we chose Darby.
Darby is the people's champ. And I think that wraps it up for Full Gear. Any final thoughts before we move on to War Games predictions?
No, I liked the show. It was pretty solid. A lot of things were but you know, all in all, fairly decent show, and they brought the boom.
They brought the boom. Yeah, I don't have anything left to say, man. You guys, it was a solid show. The wrestlers are gonna wrestle. The big stories were the big stories, and I appreciate that. I think doing my clean slate, I'll say it here. Doing my clean slate of AEW this year, they've done pretty well. I mean, it's not a TNA sized improvement, but they've done very well writing, backstage, cohesion. Not so great in women's timing, but I mean, we can't all be WWE. though. That's the one you kill me on.
More
But
good than bad. More good
yeah,
than
yeah,
bad.
but much more good than bad. Much more cohesion, much more consistency, much more like caring of angles. I would give this like you win most improved this year. This was great work you guys have done to really make people start to care about what's going on rather than what matches are happening.
Yeah.
So, very good year for you guys. And with that, we move on to War Games predictions. I guess we start with the matches that aren't announced yet.
Yeah, we can start with the matches that aren't announced.
Um, naturally, I think the least anticipated match, which I hate to say, I don't want to say it that way, but this is probably the least anticipated match is the U.S. Championship match, the potential U.S. Championship match between one LA Knight
Mm-hmm.
and a returning Shinsuke Nakamura. I want you to go first because I know what I'm going to say.
I think if this match is gonna happen, well, it potentially is, but I feel like if it does happen and the U.S. title is on the line, it was a nice run while it lasted because for it to happen like this fast and not to have any build or any whatever, I don't see LA Knight making it out of this one still holding the title. So I'm just gonna leave it there. And if this match does come to fruition, and new U.S. champion Shinsuke Nakamura.
I like your prediction and I want to ride with you. I'm on that. Let's do it. Let's put the strap on Nakamura. I like his return. I like how it looks like he somehow left and got even more into his dark side.
Yeah.
I saw him and I was like, it looks like he consumed the spirit of Great Muta.
Mm-hmm.
And how they like black out his eyes and everything, and he's got the crazy makeup. That is red like Muta.
Yeah.
I like it. I like him digging deeper into it. I think he could become. I like that. Like I don't know. He feels like anime inspired. Like
Yeah. It's not at
this
all
like
bad.
yeah, there's like big boss demon.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it. I dig everything about it. I think it makes him even cooler.
Yeah.
I feel like it's got a lot of meat on it as long as you let him win.
Mm-hmm.
That was my one knock against him and Seth. Everything about it was perfect. You just didn't let him win. And I need Nakamura to not be that guy because he's been that guy his whole career. He's been able to make it work. He's been able to make it good, and then you don't let him win.
Mm-hmm.
At least the big one. He had a good IC title run. I'll give him that. But he hasn't had they haven't thrown him a lot of bones, you know?
No.
So this is a great opportunity for him to take this US title run into some serious character build and then move him to a world championship spot where he should be.
I agree.
So yeah, I'm on Nakamura. I feel like even though this is a previously announced match, an official match, this probably isn't as important as the other world title match. Gunther versus Damian Priest. I don't either which way about it. I'm just gonna say I'm going Gunther, and then I'll
Yeah.
let you say feelings. Gunther.
Gunther and dude, this is probably the least excited I've been for a world title fight, and I don't even want to. I'm not going to discredit it and give it a super long time, but this is the least I've been excited for a world title match all year. Like this has no build to it. This has no traction to it. This has like, and I think I'm just gonna chalk that up to War Games because you're hyping up the gimmick, you're hyping up the match, and that's the meat of what you're selling to the people is War Games. I get it, but when you have world title implications on the line, you got to show that some love too. So, but Gunther's gonna wrestle, Priest is gonna wrestle. They're gonna show up. They're gonna try to do what they can, but I feel like this is probably gonna, for all intents and purposes, be the bathroom break of the entire night.
I'm sorry, Damien. I'm really sorry, Damien. Somehow you keep ending up in this spot where I just don't care as much as I should be caring. I'm so sorry, Damien. This is a first for Gunther, but so I'm not really sweating it for Gunther. But I'm sorry, Damien. It feels like you keep ending up in this spot, and I feel bad because it's it creates if it happens too often, it becomes a stigma, and you don't want that kind of thing to stick. But Damien does keep finding himself in these places, especially while he's still stuck in this semi-judgment day hump that he's going through to separate himself from what that was.
He's in the
He's
ether
been
of the
in
main event.
he's in the ether of the main event, and not that he's not involved. It's just he's not believable. He's not interesting. You know, are you going to beat the Judgment Day up this week? Probably. They don't have an upper hand on you because we didn't let them win. And Rhea's in this constant like restart mode. So her momentum is dying, and she's still wrapped up in the Judgment Day. Is they feel repetitive, far too repetitive, and until all of this breaks down and finishes, it's just a sad place for Damien to be in.
Is Damian Priest Adam Page?
Yes.
He is he is our version of Adam Page.
Yes, he should be the guy. He was picked to be the guy, and yet somehow a part of his character just will not get him there.
That's a topic of discussion to have.
We should definitely have that on a different platform. But that is a bigger conversation here. That's the bigger problem. Which leads to why the other world title match, if it is a world title match, is much more anticipated. Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens, of course, or Kevin Steen, depending on how things are shaking out. But yeah, Cody versus Kevin, man. What are your thoughts?
Again, I'm sorry for these guys because they're kind of stuck in the ether between the War Game stigma, but I can at least say this appeals much more interesting than the other world title match. This has more eye candy to it because of everything going on between Kevin and Cody, because as crazy as it sounds, this still kind of has a bloodline tie to it, and that's been the more entertaining stuff going on within the last few years, actually. So I think that's why this seems more appealing to us. And granted, it's not bloodline related, but it kind of is bloodline related. They just happen to throw Randy Orton in it for catching a stray and make it about him too. So there's more moving parts to this feud than the Damian Gunther feud, and I think that's why this is more entertaining. I think this match is going to be as hardcore as it can get without it actually being a hardcore match. I wouldn't even be surprised if this wasn't a world title match and it just became a non-sanctioned match. Like, we're just going to show up in the arena and fight. This ain't going to be for the title. We're just going to fight. And we're going to see where it goes.
I think my prediction, I feel like jumping out the window. I've been feeling like jumping out the window lately. Prediction, it would be an unsanctioned match. And I feel like, I don't know, but see, here's my caveat, right? I feel like if they make it a regular match, it has to feel, this is my thing. The build has been very good only because it's been able to be low key and put more momentum into the War Games, but it's much more controversial. It's much more social media. It's much more hush hush, which makes it cooler to talk about. Kevin digging into a very ROH Kevin with the videos and not being allowed to do this. It reminds me of Kevin creating the ROH TV championship because he was banned, because he couldn't be champion. This is it's funny. This is scapegoat material. This is what that is. This is like the actual good scapegoat story. Because a lot of people online are saying Kevin's right. Everything Kevin's saying makes sense.
Yeah.
This is not only are we getting the Kevin Owens we wanted, but we're getting it with a spin. Like the plot twist is he's this kind of Kevin Owens because he cares too much, and he's the good guy, and it puts Cody at this very weird angle. It feels like Punk versus Cena almost. Yeah, look how that works. It's very Punk Cena. It's very
Oh, you
hush
just ate my.
hush. Is this real? We all still know the Kevin contract rumors were floating around. We discussed the fact that if they do use this route until Kevin leaves, it is a brilliant like toss up for AEW because in a huge favor to Owens because you kind of write him out of the company in the very best way possible by rehabilitating his indie character of
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Steen in this kind of same way that he did in ROH. There's so many layers to it. So for me, it is a juicier story than the Bloodline story, but they've been able to downplay it because a lot of it has been Kevin Owens not in the building, Kevin Owens sending in videos, Kevin Owens showing up spontaneously, not getting to do anything. It's been very hush hush. Like for a couple weeks, they were like, "We're not even going to address it." So I feel like it's got potential to be like sleeper match of the night, like the Rogue, the Joker and the Deck would be
Mm-hmm.
this match because it could actually be better than the War Games matches. If a match was, if it was possible to do it with one of the other ones, this would be the one. Um, but that's all I have to say about it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
waste too much time. The War Games matches are what's important. Let's be honest. So let's get to the women's War Games match, which is weird. Turned out weird this year. I'll jump out the window and say I didn't like it. I don't like anything about the rollout for it. I thought it was very corny. I thought the need for 5-on-5s this year was very corny, but it works out well for the men. I feel like the women, I feel like you didn't even have to establish it as a rule. I feel like if you didn't say anything, you could have had a 4-on-4 women's that would have made sense and been perfect and made a lot better of a story and had a men's war game that was 5 that sort of made sense. I'm very disappointed in the women's rollout. I felt like it should have been the 4 girls, Bailey, Naomi, Bianca, and Jade against Nia, Tiffany Stratton, Candice LeRae, and maybe potentially Blair Davenport. Um,
You didn't
I
need
s-
a. Yeah.
the other people just didn't make sense for the story that SmackDown was already building. They already had a multi-women story that was interconnected. Like it feels weird that we just shoved all these women in here. It felt very Vince McMahon-y, like we need a spot for all the women, so let's just combine everything everyone's doing at the time. Um, so I ain't gonna lie to you, I ain't happy about it. But
Um,
yeah,
I
what
th-
are
I,
your
th-
thoughts?
I think what they were trying to do is, and it wouldn't have worked because different branding people on the same team. But maybe they tried to give it a SmackDown versus Raw Survivor Series kind of feel, but
Mm.
it didn't fully work out because you have people from different brands on the same team.
You know what?
Maybe that's what they were going for. Take 2 storylines, put them together. Let's make it feel like a Survivor Series 5-on-5, but it's not a Survivor Series 5-on-5. Maybe that's what they were trying to do.
And I rarely do this, but I'm about to dig a little deeper. You know what really pisses me off about it is if you were gonna do this, why didn't you have the beef between Nia Jax and Liv Morgan be deeper at Crown Jewel? Because they were already going to fight each other. Why didn't you leave some nugget there that it was unfinished business and then do Raw versus SmackDown?
Yeah, you could have, because then at that point you could have tried to at least make it to where you can get the 5 women from SmackDown, get the 5 women from Raw, and make it make sense. Whether you add faces to Nia's team or not, because you could have easily plucked 5 heels from Nia's team and kind of made it make sense. But then the tough caveat on that is then you got to get 5 women for Liv to make it make sense, which might have been a little bit harder for them to do because you figure
but if you take mostly, see, this is the crazy part. If you'd had Liv, because who are some of the good guys on it? That's the bad part about us dragging this Liv and Rhea thing out so long. You start to forget the other great women on the roster from Raw because we've just been drowning in this for the past few months. Damn, I can't even think of who the great women on Raw are because it's always Liv and Rhea.
I think that's pretty much it. It's Liv, Rhea, Raquel.
But all right, but yeah. You could adopt Io Sky, who's a tweener at the time. So you have your highlight person and just rope in, have a story of Liv gathering other good faces to fight Nia. Whereas Nia already had Tiffany Stratton, and you just kind of tie those beefs in together. Maybe, yeah, you could just tie those beefs together.
She could have brought in Lyra,
yeah.
Lyra in a War
had
Games
Naomi
match.
have Liv rope in Io rope in Lyra, and then grab some more. On the other side, have Nia having Tiffany Stratton. I would maybe have Rhea still be the last person, but flip it and have her be the wild card for Nia's team, only because Liv is the captain of the other side. And they could do one like that, where like the bloodline had the bloodline, but then they had one more. The other bloodline had the other bloodline, but they had one more. You could spin that and still have it be Raw versus SmackDown for the women, but at least you could have started from Crown Jewel and made a story that interconnected enough for this to make much more sense once it got here, because there wasn't that big of a gap in months between Crown Jewel, where they already fought, and here, where they're somehow tag team partners for no freaking reason. But like, it didn't even make sense until Rhea came back at the end. Like, I don't want to spend any more time on it, but the build up to this was atrocious.
Do we want to just pick our winners?
Yes.
Okay, you go first. I'll go next.
Naturally, I have to go Nia. It's probably Rhea, but I'm going with Nia. I'm going with the champions. I'll say that. The champions on the other side.
I'm just gonna go with Rhea here because I feel like that's. Wait, do I?
I mean, she's the most over.
Yeah,
woman on the roster.
We're gonna go with Rhea coming in with the face mask. You know, she's battered, she's bruised, but she's not gonna die. We have the spot person in Io. We have Bailey coming in to make the save for the team. Like, you know, with me, you guys won, blah, blah, blah. Tie that in somewhere else. But yeah, I'm just going to go Rhea, but Team Rhea. But I'm like, yeah, whatever.
It's going to be a good match. I'm excited about that. I take nothing away from how good the match is probably going to be. War games are generally great. So I have nothing but, you know, hope that the match will be well. I just hate the build. I hate everything about the build.
You guys know how much I love Liv, how much I love Rhea, how much I love most of the people in this match. I'm here for Io Sky, and that is all. Just so it's clear, I'm here for Io.
Well, Tiffany might do it too. Tiffany might do it too. I can see that.
No, thank you. I'm here for Io. I don't care who might do it or might not do it. I am just here for Io.
Teach his own. The men's war games. Let's wrap this up, man. The bloodline plus, well, I guess added with Bronson Reed, because he might still be officially bloodline. I'm feeling weird about the way they're wrapping this up, but I have a theory about how this is gonna play out later. But you got the bloodline with Bronson Reed, and you have the OTC bloodline. Or the OTB? Oh. We have the original bloodline, the OGB, the original bloodline with, of course, Roman, the Usos, Sami Zayn, and newly added CM Punk via the help of a returning Paul Heyman. What did you think about the comeback? I'll toss it all up to you.
So the whole thing plays out. Solo calls Roman to the ring. Roman doesn't even speak. We just hear the ladies and gentlemen.
Mm.
And then I popped. I was excited. Like, yes, we got him back. Let's go. Didn't even care who he was bringing out. And then he just says it's going to be 5 versus 5. And then CM Punk's music hits. And I said, wait, can I curse? I'm going to curse right now. I literally said,
Yeah.
That's fucking stupid.
You thought so?
But just because I kind of figured I know who was coming because Bronson Reed came out, I went, that's fucking stupid. But then I started laughing and I'm like, oh, wait, I see what I think I can see what they might be wanting to do here. I think we could tie another story into this somehow right after this. So then I was like, all right, you know what? It's not stupid. I retract it. But we got the wise man back. We got the bloodline, the original bloodline back to full strength with the addition of, I guess we're gonna call him one night only CM Uso. But yeah, I'm excited for this. It's a War Games match. It's bloodline. It's not Seth, which I'm
extremely happy about.
I'm actually okay with. So I'm excited for it, and I'm interested to see if this was that favor that Paul Heyman was cashing in on with CM Punk from a while back. So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna take my pick here, and I'm gonna go original bloodline.
I think this is an original bloodline win. I don't think Roman necessarily gets the Ula follow back. So I think it's okay for them to win here. Because they needed this, they needed the cohesion. Paul coming back, we knew it was gonna happen. Paul looks great. He looks like he kind of lost weight. I like him dyeing the hair back, shaving the beard, coming back clean cut. That's tan. Awesome. Extremely tan. You know, that's Paul at his best. He comes back. He introduced CM Punk, which plot twist, but very glad it wasn't Seth, because I kind of felt like everyone has been saying, oh, no, I won't do it. And then they do it. And then going with Bronson made it very predictable for Seth. And if Seth, you know what I mean? It would have been so weird for Seth to be like, okay, I'm just going to change my morals at the end of the day. Seth is not like Seth's character. Seth is very known to be very stubborn. So I'm glad he didn't move on that. I'm glad he decided to be Kevin Owens in that moment and being like, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm not going to do it. Everyone's kind of been ignoring logic to make this match happen. So I'm glad they went with CM Punk, because it actually makes a lot of sense. You know, favor to Paul. And Sam Roberts made a great point. Punk has not been there for any of Roman's run. He is totally unaffected. So you didn't wrong me. We don't really have any sort of beef. And as a favor to Paul, why wouldn't I help you? Also, I'm also somebody that nobody else likes. So naturally, you know what I mean? Like this works. And I think it does lead to potential for them to fight each other at some point.
And I think it also ties into a more deeper thing, because Roman loves Paul. CM Punk loves Paul. What did Solo and his bloodline do to Paul Heyman? They put Paul Heyman through a damn table.
That's very true. That's very true.
So Punk is probably only doing this because he's sticking up for his boy. He's sticking up for his guy.
He's here for Paul.
He's not here for bloodline. He's not here for bloodline beefs. He's here to get his lick back for his guy, Paul, because at the end of the day, he is a Paul Heyman guy.
And you know what? There's nothing that brings people together like Paul Heyman, truly. So I feel like that creates a non-beef zone, even.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, oh, you're here for Paul. I'm not even going to pretend we, you know what I mean? I'm not even going to check you like that. You here for Paul. I love Paul. That's not even a fight for real.
Mm-hmm.
So they can reconcile that next week and get on the same page. I feel like they'll have a lot more cohesion. But then again, I don't know. Is it going to be exciting? Is it going to be exciting? I'm excited for what I feel like I go with the original bloodline here, but I wouldn't count out Solo finding some way to make it work. But like I said, I'm gonna go bloodline because I feel like they can win here, and then maybe the Ula Fala battle is much harder.
Yeah, and then I think this ties in another way for the final boss to come back too.
That as well,
because the final boss doesn't like Roman. And on paper, the final boss doesn't like CM Punk either.
Oh, him and Punk have big beef. Big beef.
Kayfabe, big beef.
Kayfabe. If I was Punk, I'd have more of a beef with The Rock than The Rock would have with me. Because we
you took my WrestleMania main event.
Dude. That's Scarlet Witch versus Thanos right there.
I'm going to take your bloodline down.
You took everything from me. I had it. I went on the run of my life. The run of my life. I had it all. I was right there, and you son of a bitch.
Dude, this has potential. This has potential to be so hilarious.
Oh man, they could really take this somewhere. This could be really good. This could do a couple months, maybe.
When you start peeling back all the onion layers of everything this could potentially be, it's like, oh yeah, I like that they went with Punk because we could just keep on peeling away and seeing what we get to.
Yeah, this is a lot. This is a lot of extra sauce on it when you really get to thinking about it. I enjoy it. I think it's gonna be. It's see, this is the thing. Cody and Kevin might be, but this is probably everyone's pick to be match of the night.
Yeah.
But that's all we have for predictions. If you guys have anything different, if you guys have any different theories, if you guys feel totally different about the build for the women, let us know in the comments. And you know what? While you're down there in the comments section, there's probably a little button that's very close to it. It's probably a like or a subscribe. If you want to go ahead and do one of those, you've lasted this long, and this is longer than our normal pods. So, I mean, you must really love the content, and you might as well subscribe to stick around. We do short form, long form. We're on TikTok. We're on IG. Actually, there's also a little thing in the description even that you can press to lead to our other links. Literally, I think it's called a link tree.
Yeah.
And you can link with us on the other different platforms. We got a website, dangerousjobberswebsite.com. And, you know, thanks for lasting this long. Thanks for listening to us talk about war games and Full Gear. And, yeah, I think that about wraps it up. I am your boy, Stevie Jobber.
I'm your boy, Dangerous Duke.
And as always, guys, stay up, stay blessed, and Duke,
stay dangerous.
People have been asking me, why, Eddie, why?